Difficult emotions are a part of life for everyone. No matter who you are, there will be times when you feel sadness, anger, frustration, or even deep disappointment. In Buddhism, we recognize that these emotions are not problems to be avoided or erased. Instead, they are natural responses that arise from our experiences as human beings. From a Buddhist perspective, emotions are not seen as enemies. They are not something bad that we must fight against. Rather, they are messages from within ourselves, telling us about our inner world and what matters to us. When we face difficult emotions, our usual habit is to try to push them away or pretend they do not exist. Some people may distract themselves with entertainment, food, or work. Others might try to hide their feelings from others or even from themselves. But according to Buddhist teachings, ignoring our emotions does not help us in the long run. In fact, pushing away our feelings can make them even stronger, and they might come back in unexpected ways. Buddhism teaches us to take a different approach. Instead of seeing difficult emotions as mistakes or weaknesses, we can view them as opportunities to learn more about ourselves. When we become curious about our feelings, we can start to understand why they appear. Are we upset because we lost something important? Are we angry because we feel treated unfairly? By asking gentle questions, we begin to see the deeper reasons behind our emotional pain. The Buddhist path invites us to face our emotions honestly and with courage. We do not have to fear them. Each emotion has its own reason for appearing, and by understanding this, we can start to make peace with ourselves. This is the first step in the Buddhist approach to dealing with difficult emotions. In Buddhist teachings, suffering is seen as a basic part of human life. The Buddha explained that everyone, no matter how rich or poor, experiences some kind of suffering. This does not mean only big tragedies or great pain. Suffering can also mean the small struggles and disappointments that we all face. It might be the sadness of losing a friend, the stress from work, or the worry about the future. These everyday difficulties are just as important as the bigger challenges. The reason why we suffer is explained through the concept of dukkha, a word from the ancient language of Pali. Dukkha does not just mean physical pain. It also refers to emotional struggles, confusion, and a sense of dissatisfaction with life. Sometimes we feel that things are never quite perfect, or that something is always missing. This is a part of dukkha. Buddhism does not teach us to deny our suffering or pretend it does not exist. Instead, it encourages us to look at it honestly. When we admit that suffering is a normal part of life, we can stop blaming ourselves for feeling bad. It is not a failure or a weakness. It is simply a fact of being human. The Buddha himself faced suffering and spoke openly about it. He taught that by understanding suffering, we can find a way through it. Knowing this, we can be a little more gentle with ourselves when we struggle. We can accept that feeling pain is natural, and we do not have to feel ashamed. This understanding opens the door to compassion, not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us. We realize that we are not alone. Everyone faces challenges, and this connects us to each other as human beings. Buddhism teaches that emotional pain does not appear without a cause. There are reasons why we feel hurt, sad, or troubled. According to Buddhist thought, much of our emotional pain comes from our ways of seeing the world and ourselves. Sometimes, these ways of thinking are so automatic that we do not even notice them. But if we look carefully, we can find the roots of our suffering. One of the main causes of emotional pain is misunderstanding or confusion. For example, we might believe that happiness comes from always getting what we want, or that life should always go as planned. When reality does not match our expectations, we feel disappointed or upset. We may also feel pain when we are too attached to certain ideas, people, or things. The desire to hold on tightly, or the fear of losing what we love, can create deep emotional wounds. Another source of pain is the sense of separation from others. When we compare ourselves to people around us, we might feel that we are not good enough, or that we are alone in our struggles. This feeling of being separate or different can make our pain even worse. Buddhism suggests that these feelings often come from mistaken views, like the belief that our self is completely separate from everyone else. Emotional pain can also grow stronger when we judge ourselves harshly. We might think, "I should not feel this way," or "I am weak for having these emotions." These thoughts add more suffering to our original pain. Instead, Buddhism invites us to gently question these beliefs and see if they are really true. By understanding the roots of emotional pain, we can begin to change our relationship with our emotions. We can see that pain is not a punishment, but a result of natural causes and conditions. This understanding gives us hope that things can change and we can find relief. In Buddhist teachings, desire and attachment are often described as main causes of emotional pain. Desire means wanting things to be a certain way, or wishing for something we do not have. Attachment is holding on tightly to things, people, or ideas, even when it causes us stress. These two are closely connected, and both can create a cycle of suffering in our lives. For example, we may want a new phone, more money, or constant praise from others. When we get what we want, we feel happy for a short time. But this happiness does not last. Soon, we may find something else to want, or we worry about losing what we have. This is the nature of desire. It never fully ends, and it always asks for more. Attachment can also bring emotional pain. If we are attached to the idea that life must be comfortable and easy, we may feel upset when problems appear. If we are attached to a person, we might fear losing them or feel hurt if they do not meet our expectations. Even good things, like success or love, can become sources of worry when we cling to them too tightly. Buddhism does not say that all desires are bad, or that we should never care about anything. Wanting to be healthy, safe, or connected to others is natural. The problem begins when our desires and attachments become too strong, making us restless or afraid. We might become so focused on what we want that we forget to appreciate what we already have. Understanding the role of desire and attachment helps us see why we suffer when things do not go our way. By noticing these patterns in our own lives, we can start to loosen our grip a little. This does not mean giving up on happiness. It means finding a more balanced way to relate to our wishes and the people or things we love. One important teaching in Buddhism is the idea that everything changes, including our emotions. This is called impermanence. It means that nothing in life stays the same forever, and that includes how we feel. When we remember this, it can help us deal with difficult emotions in a healthier way. Many times, when we are sad, angry, or worried, it feels like the emotion will last forever. We might think that we will always feel this way, and that nothing will ever get better. But if we look back on our lives, we can see that emotions come and go. There were times when we felt unhappy, but those feelings did not stay with us forever. New experiences, new thoughts, and the passing of time help those emotions to change. Sometimes our emotions are like clouds passing through the sky. They might cover the sun for a while, but they do not stay in one place. In the same way, our feelings may seem very strong at first, but they also change and eventually fade away. Even the most painful emotions lose their power over time. When we recognize that our emotions are not permanent, we can find some relief. We do not have to fight our feelings or be afraid of them. Instead, we can wait and see what happens next. This knowledge gives us the patience to get through difficult moments. It also helps us enjoy the happy moments more, because we know they are also precious and will not last forever. Remembering impermanence does not mean ignoring our emotions or pretending not to care. It simply means understanding the natural flow of life. By seeing our emotions as temporary visitors, we can give ourselves permission to feel them, but also let them go when they are ready to leave. In our daily lives, emotions often appear so quickly that we may not notice them until they are very strong. We might suddenly feel upset, anxious, or irritated, and we do not always understand why. In Buddhism, there is value in taking time to notice and become aware of our emotional patterns. This means observing not just the emotions themselves, but also the situations and thoughts that bring them up again and again. Many of us have habits when it comes to emotions. For example, some people get angry easily when they feel ignored. Others feel sad when they are alone. These patterns are shaped by our past experiences, our beliefs, and sometimes even the people we spend time with. By paying attention, we can start to see which situations or thoughts cause our emotions to rise. When we recognize our emotional patterns, we can prepare ourselves to deal with them more skillfully. If we know that certain events often make us feel stressed or unhappy, we can take steps to handle those situations differently next time. We might pause for a moment before reacting, or choose to respond in a calmer way. Becoming aware of our patterns does not mean we will never feel bad again. Instead, it helps us feel less controlled by our emotions. This kind of awareness brings more understanding and less blame. Instead of saying, "I always mess things up," we can notice, "I often feel nervous when I have to speak in public." This simple change in thinking can help us treat ourselves with more kindness and patience. By learning about our own emotional habits, we create space to make better choices. We can break old cycles that do not serve us and find new ways to respond to life's challenges. This is an important step in the Buddhist approach to working with difficult emotions. It is common to judge our emotions as good or bad. We might think that happiness is good, but anger or sadness is bad. When we have difficult feelings, we often try to push them away or tell ourselves that we should not feel this way. In Buddhism, there is a different way to look at emotions. We are encouraged to observe them without judgment. Observing without judgment means allowing emotions to be present, just as they are, without labeling them as right or wrong. For example, if you feel jealous or angry, you do not have to criticize yourself or try to hide these feelings. Instead, you can simply notice, "This is what I am feeling right now." This way, you give yourself permission to experience your emotions without adding extra pain. When we judge our emotions, it often makes them stronger. We might feel ashamed for being sad or guilty for feeling frustrated. These extra layers of judgment can make it even harder to understand what we are really feeling. If we can stop judging ourselves even for a little while, our emotions often become easier to handle. Buddhism teaches that all emotions are part of the human experience. No one is free from difficult feelings, not even wise teachers or monks. By observing our emotions with openness, we can begin to understand them more deeply. We can see where they come from and how they affect us. This approach does not mean we must like every feeling we have. It simply means we can be honest with ourselves and allow our emotions to come and go naturally. Observing without judgment is a gentle way to care for ourselves, especially when times are hard. It is a skill that takes practice, but it can help us find more peace within our hearts. In life, we often react to our emotions very quickly. When someone says something unkind, we might get angry and shout back. When we feel hurt, we may close ourselves off or say something we do not really mean. These quick reactions can sometimes make situations worse and lead to more pain for ourselves and others. Buddhism teaches that we do not have to be controlled by our first reaction. We can learn to respond thoughtfully instead. Responding instead of reacting means taking a pause before doing or saying anything. It is like giving yourself a short moment to breathe and notice what you are feeling. This pause may only be a few seconds, but it can make a big difference. In that space, you can ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling this way? This small act helps you choose how to act, rather than letting emotions make the decision for you. When we react, we often act out of habit. We might say something sharp or act in a way we later regret. But when we respond, we are making a conscious choice. We can decide to speak kindly even when we are upset, or to wait until we feel calmer before taking action. This does not mean hiding your feelings or pretending everything is fine. It means being honest about your emotions, but also being careful about how you express them. Learning to respond takes practice. Sometimes you might react quickly before you remember to pause, and that is okay. The important thing is to keep trying. Each time you succeed in responding instead of reacting, you build a stronger sense of inner calm. Over time, you may notice that you feel less controlled by your emotions and more in charge of your actions. This is one way Buddhism helps us deal with difficult emotions in a peaceful and wise manner. Many people are very hard on themselves, especially when they feel difficult emotions. It is easy to think, I shouldn't feel this way, or something must be wrong with me. This way of thinking can make our pain even deeper. In Buddhism, self-acceptance is seen as an important step in healing emotional wounds. Self-acceptance means allowing yourself to be just as you are, with all your feelings, mistakes, and worries. It does not mean ignoring your problems or giving up on trying to grow. Instead, it is about being gentle and honest with yourself, especially during hard times. When you accept yourself, you stop fighting against your own emotions. You allow yourself to feel sadness, anger, or fear without adding the extra weight of shame or guilt. Many people believe that accepting themselves will make them weak or lazy. But in reality, self-acceptance gives you the strength to face your challenges. When you stop blaming yourself for feeling bad, you create more space in your heart for understanding and positive change. You realize that you are not alone in your struggles. Everyone feels pain and confusion sometimes. Buddhism teaches that self-acceptance is not selfish or self-centered. It is the first step to real growth and happiness. By accepting your own difficulties, you also become more understanding toward others. You start to see that everyone is trying their best, even when they make mistakes or feel lost. Self-acceptance takes time and practice. Some days it may feel easy, while other days it is hard. But every small step toward being kinder to yourself makes a difference. When you accept yourself, just as you are, you begin to heal. This is a powerful part of the Buddhist way to work with difficult emotions and find greater peace within. Buddhist teachings offer simple but deep guidance for finding balance with our emotions. One of the main ideas is to look at our thoughts and feelings clearly, instead of trying to escape or control them. This clear seeing helps us find a middle path, not being carried away by strong emotions, but also not ignoring them. Emotional balance does not mean we never feel sad or upset. Instead, it means we can handle those feelings without losing our sense of peace. One way to use Buddhist teachings is to remember that emotions are natural and temporary. We do not have to judge ourselves for feeling something unpleasant. When anger, sadness, or worry arises, we can notice it and remind ourselves that it is okay to feel this way. This simple understanding makes it easier to stay steady, even in difficult moments. Another helpful lesson from Buddhism is about letting go of control. Often, we try to force ourselves or others to feel a certain way. We might think, I must be happy all the time. or others should treat me a certain way. These thoughts can create more stress and disappointment. By relaxing our need to control every emotion or outcome, we find more ease in daily life. Buddhist stories often teach us that life is full of change, and our emotions will change too. If we can be patient with ourselves during tough times, we will eventually find that the feeling passes. In this way, emotional balance is about patience, understanding, and gentle acceptance. Applying these teachings in daily life helps us keep our hearts steady, even when the world around us is uncertain. We can move through life's ups and downs with a little more calm and confidence. This is the kind of emotional balance that Buddhist practice encourages, making it possible to live more peacefully with whatever emotions may come. Anger and resentment are emotions that everyone experiences at some point. Sometimes, these feelings come from being treated unfairly, or when someone hurts us with words or actions. In Buddhism, these emotions are not ignored or denied, but we are encouraged to work with them in a wise way. Holding on to anger can make our own lives more difficult, often hurting us more than the person who made us upset. One way to overcome anger is to start by noticing when it appears. Instead of acting right away, we can pause and recognize, I'm feeling angry now. This simple step helps us create space between the feeling and our response. When we look closely, we might see that our anger often covers up other emotions, like fear, sadness, or disappointment. Another Buddhist teaching is to reflect on the causes of anger. Sometimes, our expectations are too high, or we want things to go only our way. When reality is different from what we hoped for, anger may arise. By understanding the real reason behind our feelings, we can let go more easily. It is also helpful to remember that everyone makes mistakes, and sometimes people hurt others without meaning to. If we hold on to resentment, we carry a heavy burden that affects our peace of mind. Letting go of old anger does not mean we agree with what happened, but it means we are ready to move forward and free ourselves from the past. Buddhist practice suggests meeting anger with understanding, rather than adding more blame or hatred. This may take time and effort, and it does not mean pretending that everything is fine. But even a small step toward releasing anger can make a big difference in our lives. Over time, we discover that it is possible to feel lighter and more at peace, no matter what has happened before. Fear and anxiety are emotions that everyone faces at different times in life. These feelings might come when we are worried about the future, facing a big change, or feeling unsure about what will happen next. In Buddhist teachings, fear and anxiety are seen as natural responses to life's uncertainties. We do not have to be ashamed of them or try to hide them. Instead, Buddhism encourages us to look at these emotions with gentle attention. The first step in transforming fear and anxiety is to acknowledge them honestly. We can say to ourselves, I am feeling afraid right now, or there is a lot of worry in my mind. By naming the emotion, we take away some of its power. We can then begin to ask, what is the fear really about? Sometimes, our anxiety is based on thoughts or stories that may not be completely true. Another helpful approach is to stay present with what is happening right now, instead of getting lost in thoughts about the future. Many fears are about things that have not happened yet, and may never happen. By focusing on the present moment, we can remind ourselves that we are safe, at least for now. We can pay attention to simple things, like the feeling of our breath or the sounds around us, to help bring our minds back to the present. Buddhist wisdom also teaches us to accept that some uncertainty is part of life. We cannot control everything, and that is okay. When we stop fighting against uncertainty, we find more peace. Little by little, we discover that fear and anxiety do not have to control us. We can live with these emotions, but they do not have to lead our lives. With patience and understanding, we can transform fear and anxiety into opportunities for growth and self-knowledge. This gentle way of dealing with our worries helps us find a deeper sense of calm and strength inside ourselves. Life can sometimes feel like a storm of emotions. There are days when everything seems to go wrong, and we may feel sadness, anger, or confusion all at once. In these moments of emotional turmoil, it is easy to feel lost or overwhelmed. Buddhism teaches that even in the middle of strong emotions, it is possible to find a sense of peace. The first step is to remember that it is normal to feel this way from time to time. Everyone faces emotional storms, and it does not mean you are weak or failing. In fact, these difficult times can become valuable moments for learning about yourself. Instead of trying to run away from the storm, Buddhism invites us to stay with our experience, even if it is uncomfortable. Finding peace does not mean making all your problems disappear. It means creating a quiet space inside yourself, even while emotions are swirling around. You can do this by pausing for a moment, noticing your feelings, and simply being with them. Sometimes, just taking a deep breath and saying to yourself, "It's okay to feel this way," can help you find a small island of calm. It is also important to be kind to yourself during emotional turmoil. Speak gently to yourself, as you would to a close friend who is struggling. Try not to blame yourself or judge your feelings. With patience, you will see that every storm eventually passes. Your emotions may be strong, but they are not permanent. Through these practices, you can begin to find peace, even in difficult times. The Buddhist path does not promise a life without challenges, but it shows us how to live with more balance and understanding. In this way, we can learn to trust ourselves and discover calm in the very heart of our emotional storms. As we come to the end of this journey together, I would like to reflect on the Buddhist path and what it offers for emotional resilience. Throughout life, everyone faces moments of struggle, doubt, and deep feeling. Buddhism does not promise to remove all pain, but it shows a gentle and practical way to live with whatever arises. By looking honestly at our emotions, learning to understand their roots, and responding with care rather than judgment, we can find more peace within ourselves. Emotional resilience does not mean never feeling sad or afraid. It means developing the inner strength to face difficult emotions, knowing they are a natural part of being human. With patience, awareness, and acceptance, we can weather the storms of life and find calm, even in troubled times. Each small step in this direction helps us to build a more balanced and compassionate heart. You have chosen to spend your time listening to these teachings, and I am deeply grateful. Every like, every thoughtful comment, and each person who has subscribed to this channel brings encouragement and support. I appreciate all of you who have shared your experiences or offered kindness to others in the community. Your presence here, your questions, and your stories are a reminder that we are all learning and growing together. For those who have shown support through Super Thanks or become channel members, please accept my heartfelt gratitude. Your support makes it possible to continue sharing these teachings and to reach more people who may benefit from them. Thank you for being a part of this community and for your interest in the Buddhist way. May you find strength and peace on your own journey, wherever you may be. It is a privilege to walk this path together, even for a short while. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for being here.